All right, we're on countdown. Don't say anything. We are live.
What up, what up, what up, what up, what up, everybody? Good morning, good evening, good night. Might be even Sunday in some places where everyone's logging in. Welcome, everybody, to the Global Empowerment Cultural Summit. This is our online panel series. This is our sixth installment. My name is Renee John Sandy. I'm one of the co-producers of this event. I'm also the co-founder and executive director of the Hip Hop Loves Foundation, which is the organization that's also helps put this event together. And we're all very thankful for everyone to log in today. We have a very, very, very special panel discussion today that I've been looking forward to for a while sometime. And, we got some really dynamic people on this panel. And we're going to have a really, really good, heartfelt conversation today. Just to give a little gist of back track of what this event is about, the Global Empowerment Cultural Summit basically was something that we came up with the idea of getting artists, athletes, educators, trailblazers, community activists, people from all over the world that are really making an impact in the world, and it really has some discussions about different topics and have different events to go around it. So originally this was supposed to be in person. Due to COVID-19, we were unable to do that last year. So we decided, hey, why don't we do some discussions on a monthly basis that will lead into what we want to plan to do this next year in person here in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. That's where I'm located currently. One of the key things about this also is having this be a global discussion. So having people from all over the world, so we're getting different perspectives from people from all across the world, because I feel like at this point in time, it's very important for people to hear narratives, perspectives, opinions, and, just the journeys of people from all over the world, so to being very enlightening. Another thing that's very important about this is that we really have a stance on equality. So what you're going to see today, all of our panels, we focus on having an equal amount of males to females on this panel, because we feel everybody's voice is important. And, even coming from all different parts of the world. So, that's very important for us. So, so today, the conversation is, bum rush the show. Hip hop and media. We have, a dynamic group of people that's on this panel today. I'm really excited just to hear the conversation. But first and foremost, let me give a shout out to one of our other co-producers today, Raquel Delgado. It's her birthday, so happy birthday, Raquel.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Much love, that she's
Candles
taking the time to spend some time to, be doing this panel today. And let me say this is the first, we have two panels today, it's on the same topic. So this one's in English right now. And then an hour after this ends, we will have another panel in Spanish. So everyone can keep logged in after this panel. So you can hear that, you can hear this perspective from people again from all over the world. So it's been, we've gone through some trying times this year, even the last year and a half. And obviously for everyone here that's a part of the hip hop community, we did have someone that's a true legend that has moved and transitioned to, another space this week, DMX. There's a lot of people have been inspired by his music, his words, his artistry, craft, and just him as a person. So first, we'd like to take a moment and have a moment of silence just to pay homage and respects to DMX at this point. Sending love and light to him, his family, everyone around the community that's been, that's been close to him, affected by it. I mean, there's people on this panel who've, met him, been in contact. So, we just want to share love, and that's important today. We really want to spread some love. So without further ado, we're going to get into, bum rush the show. I want to shout out and really acknowledge Jerry Barrow, first and foremost, because Jerry, I've been working close with him as far as like helping to curate this amongst our, our co-production team. So I just want to give you a quick shout out too, but I'm going to go into right now, introducing our co-moderators. And first and foremost, I'm going to introduce Yacko. Yacko, based in Indonesia, beautiful soul, been in the hip hop scene for over 20 years, digging deep into Indonesia. And for those who don't know, like Indonesia, as far as like on a global perspective, Indonesia is huge. Like when you really get to the map and you can see there's a lot, like it's a huge place. So if you're not even familiar with it, I'm just gonna say, really go on the map and really look at it. So when you see someone like her that's been in the hip hop game for 20 years and doing it big in Indonesia, that's much props. She started rapping at the age of 13 and got her first record deal at 16. Very impressive. Takes a stand on just having really shaking up conversations, like being disruptive in a positive and an enlightening way for people, all over the world, and using her voice and her platform in those capacities. She's also does in business. She's a loving mother. We love our hip hop mamas over here. So, we want to say much love on that. And, during the times when she's not, being a mother, handling her business and everything, and a professor of marketing and business in Jakarta, by the way, she's about hip hop. Like, this is what she's been, bleeding in her veins. So you can find her doing showcases, doing projects and all that. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Yacko.
Thank you. Much appreciated, Renee, for the wow introduction. Hi, everyone. It's greetings from Jakarta, Indonesia. It's 11 p.m. here, but this is exactly the time I need to do all the creativity, So it's good to be talking to you all. And I'm looking forward to a very, very interesting discussion here. It's good. Yep. Thank you for inviting me to be here.
Absolutely. That's an honor and pleasure to have you. Now I'm going to get into our next co-moderator that I did give a shout out to earlier and bring that back to him, is Jerry Barrow. Jerry's a Brooklyn native. Jerry's a person I've known for decades, and I could say, like, if you've been in any type of entertainment industry in the business or something like that, sometimes it's very hard to find people that, I know it can sound cliche, but real ones, who've been authentic, like they've been the same way from when you first met them to, just decades later. No matter what you've gotten involved with in the hip hop industry, they've always been the same. And I have to just say much props on that. Nothing's never changed from his evolution within the industry. I mean, he joined the staff for The Source in the early 90s. He'd been doing so much, editor, deputy editor at that, did features editors. After that, he got involved with Scratch Magazine, the urbandaily.com. He's made his way even through BET. So he's gone through, if you see it, and we're talking about media at this point, from when print was a big thing within hip hop, print magazines, now getting into the digital era. So he's made that transition very smoothly, which has not been easy for a lot of people. So, he also has a podcast, a dynamic podcast. He's a father, and he's emphasized doing a podcast called Fathers Who Bother, which introduces actors and musicians and sharing their experience as parents, which I feel is very important, just getting those perspectives and having a real perspective on that standpoint, because as we all know, when we're going day by day with everything in our lives, those who are parents, like it's, you're dealing with a lot, not only just your own career, but you're also dealing with the lives of others and being responsible for others. So, it's much love and respect on that. Without further ado, introducing Jerry Barrow.
Hey, thank you, Renee. That was a wonderful introduction, and I'm just really happy to be here. one footnote. It was more like late 90s. I got
Late
started.
90s. Yeah.
That was
Yeah, so-
Datwon, who was in the early to mid 90s.
True. Yeah, I didn't know.
Oh,
I'm just saying.
Shots fired.
Nah, he got started before I did.
I have no idea what got started.
That wasn't shots. That was
idea.
he was. See, I have OGs who are my age. That's how I see it. You know, people who preceded me who are my age. So they is one of those. But nah, I love the energy. I love this whole, and it's crazy to be talking about transition to digital when digital is like 20 years old now.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like one of my earliest jobs was volume.com, and that was supposed to be the, you know, the digital era. And now we're like in like digital 4.0, it feels like, you know, 20 years later. But thank you for inviting me to help put this together. We're still waiting for one of our panelists to show up, but I'm looking forward to this conversation today.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I think I did my part. I know we have a lot to discuss today. There's a lot of different, you know, topics we're going to get into and really dig deep into this. You know, we're gonna have some fun. As you see already, shots were already fired early, so we don't know what's going to happen. Hey.
Yeah, you got started in like 95, right? That's
Yeah.
90s.
96.
Okay, 96.
96.
I'm more of a 97, 98 guy. So that's why I say late 90s.
But I was interning, but it still counts.
Yeah, how hip hop is it?
Yeah.
I guess in terms of I'll just segue into introducing Day, since you know we're talking about him. How hip hop is this? Me and Day met at D&D Studios.
Crazy.
Like that's how far
That's
back
how
we
hip
go.
hop we are.
That's how hip hop we are, and that's my brother.
All day.
You don't understand. Like our kids went to the same school at one point. You know, we were picking up and dropping them off. Like it was like that. And he's been, you know, we call ourselves the Barrow brothers because you know we've just had this kismet when it comes to hip hop. If I didn't hear it from Day, then I didn't hear it. And you know, I just appreciate having him there is like my anchor in all this craziness. Let me know that I'm not crazy. So Datwon Thomas, I'll let you fill in the details since I'm firing shots.
Wait, Dave, before you go into it, I just want to say the Barrow brothers, I didn't know you guys were like a WWF like tag team. You know, I'm gonna leave it at that. And I'm gonna sit my ball. I learn something new every day now.
We're a tag team. We're a tag team.
And then what's crazy is if we going against like some real craziness on the WWF or E, we would have to tag in Chuck. You know what I mean? Because Chuck, we have a group chat that we actually talk before this. It's just crazy. Yeah. So I'm just honored to be here with my brothers and always being able to see them and salute them. We have royalty that just walked into the building. Aliya King was good. Neil was good.
Yeah.
Hey guys.
Peace.
Nice.
Yes,
Nice to meet you.
I take full responsibility for being a really bad moderator. So Aliya, thank you so much for.
You're welcome. I'm glad to
making
no, I am really.
That's what's
The
up.
newly appointed, what's your position at Simon & Schuster now?
I am the newly appointed day one, just completed senior editor at Simon & Schuster.
Yeah.
Excellent. Congratulations.
That's what's up. Yes. Well, I think we should still keep going with Aliya.
Okay, what am I doing? What am I saying? What's
We're
happening?
just doing intros. Just you know,
intro.
give us a quick catch up intro
Okay.
on your esteemed career.
Okay. Yes, all the esteem. I love esteem. My name is Aliya King Neal. Once upon a time known as Aliya S. King. Same thing. I have been in journalism for 22 years. Y'all got to give me a second because, you know, there's some faces on here that are just like, get you choked up. At this point, at 47, I'm realizing that a lot of these people on this panel I've known for longer than I've not known. We all came in together, little babies. I call us B teamers because the A team were in the game when Big and Pac were still with us. And even if they didn't get a chance to interview them, they got those firsthand stories. They were at the party. And even though we're all in our special way, I all see us kind of like, you know, we know that that wasn't our moment, but it was because of that time period that we were able to get on the way we did. And we kind of took the whole game and ran with it in a way that they didn't, you know, ever think would be. So I started out as Billboard as an editorial assistant. From there, I hustled my way into The Source, which is a long and pretty awesome story, actually. From there, I left The Source in 2001, and I was a full-time freelancer until Monday of last week. This is my first time having an actual day job in 20 years. So people talk to me and I have to talk back and say good morning. And it's really weird because I'm just used to being in my own little hovel, but I love it so far. So yeah, I've done a little bit of everything. I started out in just pure journalism, investigative, celebrity profiles, all that. After doing a celebrity profile on Faith Evans for Vibe, she snatched me up and took me into the book world with her, where I've done a number of celebrity profiles and then wrote my own stuff. So I think the biggest thing for me right now in terms of what hip hop journalism is that it's become I don't know if it still exists, and I don't know if we're going to get that deep with it today, but I feel like when I say hip hop journalism, people are kind of like, that's just journalism, but it's not. It's different, it's special, and it gave us all a sort of degree in something that we use every single day today. So I got this opportunity to acquire books for Simon & Schuster. The first thing I said to them was, I'm still gonna write. And if I have to not take this gig because I wanna still write my own books, I can't take it. And they were like, we want you here because of that. You know, we want you to be able to do your own thing as well, particularly if you're writing them for us, cough, cough. And also we know you know how to bring us good books. So at some point I wanna talk about what I've seen in my first week already, because I'm seeing what I'm gonna need to see in order to acquire the books that I wanna acquire from us, because there's some work to be done there. Is that good enough? Did I say enough?
Excellent. I could sit here and listen to you talk all the day. See, this is why I said I have OGs who are my age. Like Aliya is light years ahead of me as far as I'm concerned. People look at me and say, oh, Jay, you've been doing this 20 years. She has done so much more in that same time frame. So I'm just in awe of you, Aliya, and thank you again. I'm a pivot quickly for the next intro to who I consider a rising star, someone I've had the honor to work with for several years now, Dylan Green. Can you please share with the panel your experiences with the game?
Sure. Hi, everybody. It's still very wild to be here. My name is Dylan Green. I write under the name CinemaSci. I've been writing for how many years has it been? It's been almost a decade. I've been writing professionally since about 2013. I started writing when I was in I started writing professionally when I was in college. I got an internship at Interactive One, where I first met Jerry. I was working at News One and he was at the Urban Daily. And then after that happened, I bounced around a bit. I wrote a little bit for the Source, for the site, not the magazine. I never made it there. But and then I wrote about rap and film for there. And then Jerry brought me into watchloud.com, where I was for about we were there for what, like 3-4 years?
About 3
something
years,
like that.
like 2 or 3
Yes.
years, roughly. Yeah.
If it felt like an eternity and I never wanted it to end, but eventually it did. And like I learned so much there. And Jerry put me in touch with Brian Z over at DJ Booth, and I started writing for DJ Booth from then on. And over the course of the last, like I'd say 3 or 4 years, I write for places like Pitchfork. I've been I'm a regular over at Audio Mac. I've written for BET, Complex. I've been all over, and it's very weird to think about how far I've come in like 8 or 9 short years. And just the fact that I'm even on a panel like this is super. I feel like I'm just like amongst royalty right now, and I appreciate everybody here. So I'm here to absorb as much game as I'm here to spit, if I even have any. I'm just happy to even be here. So thank y'all for real. This is great. I'm so happy. and nervous, if you couldn't tell.
And then right before I hand it off to Yacko, I gotta shout out my brother Chuck Creekmur of allhiphop.com. We go back like AOL Instant Messenger.
Yeah.
Literally, you know.
Don't lump me up with you and Datwon, man.
Oh, don't do it. I'm not gonna be the old man on here, y'all. Y'all ain't doing that to me today.
But you know, you guys, you know him for his site, being a founder and editor at allhiphop.com. But I'll let him tell you the rest.
Yeah, you know, I'm glad to be here, and I'm extremely happy to be surrounded by such positive people, particularly all across the globe. That's important to note. And I'm surprised you guys didn't call it Takes a Nation, because that was the second Public Enemy album, which they established very initially in that album that hip hop had gone global. So happy to be here. Chuck Creekmur, AKA Jigsaw, and I'm one of the two co-founders of allhiphop.com. We came out of the spirit of hip hop, whereas growing up is, so to speak, as a young writer, I wanted to write for The Source, XXL, even Vibe, and had difficulty getting in those doors, to the point where I walked up to XXL's address and literally knocked on the door, let me in, and just couldn't get an answer. So that led to me writing for a number of small independent magazines, but that was a gift. That was the ultimate blessing, because with the skill set that I had as a writer, shout out to the University of Delaware, which gave me an incredible foundation. And so I took those clips and those writings from college, and was writing very major features for smaller publications. And that's what allowed me to interview DMX in '98 and get a full feature with DMX and cannabis and all these, this explosion of creativity at that time, Beanie Siegel, Memphis Bleak, Ja Rule, and so on and so forth. And, I took those articles and put them all on the internet on All Hip Hop and another site that I was doing. And our traffic just grew and grew and grew. Imagine having DMX online the year he drops 2 classic albums, and what that can do to your business. So that led to what Jerry mentioned earlier, which was volume.com. And that was when I moved to New York finally. And so, and it's been just a wild ride, man. I mean, I just can't imagine this journey being 20 something years and still feeling passionate about it, still loving the culture, loving to seeing it go global, loving to see the regions outside the United States have their own sound and actually come back and influence the American style of rhyming. So all hip hop is still, I love to say that we're hip hop owned, which is something that a lot of companies are not. We're also Black owned, but hip hop owned is a different sort of connotation when you're talking about the culture. So we are proudly hip hop owned, and I'm happy to be here, and we're here in service of the global community.
All right, so Yacko, do you want to
Right.
take over?
Wow. Things are just getting really, really interesting, getting to know all this, all you, all of you here with all your backgrounds in the media and stuff. And so I would like to give the space and time to Veronica to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Yacko. Thank you, Renee, for the invitation. And thank you, everybody, just to be a part of this creative panel and to be considered a creative. I never considered myself a creative. And as I get older, I just realized that I need to own it, So I've been in this business since '94, and I really took it for granted. I'm a TV news producer, and I currently work with WPIX in New York. And that was my first job out of college. So I went to Syracuse University, was where I had the pleasure of meeting Renee. And, you know, a little kid from Brooklyn, I never even thought I was going to go to college. So to get into college and then to go to the best journalism school was bananas. So then it just seemed like everything was just the luck of the draw. And, you know, when Aliya talked about like the A team, I just remember being on the periphery of the A team, because as a production assistant, a young writer in the newsroom, I would get the invitations to go to the Biggie parties, and I would field produce, and I'd be talking to Biggie and hop into the music, and then remember like, oh, I'm at work. You know what I mean? You know, and then just being part of the culture capital, you know, and always being on the front lines of, you know, the news coverage and the content and giving some context, because usually I was the only Latina in the newsroom. Oftentimes I was the only person of color in the newsroom, you know, so to be able to speak our language and be able to travel that distance between hip hop and journalism and media, I'm privileged to stand in that space, and I couldn't have done it without all of you, because I know that I have reached out to Datwon, I've reached out to Chuck, I've reached out to Renee all the time to ask for interviews. Like, I need somebody of color who can understand our language, you know, because it's my responsibility to put that out there. You know, we're a commodity, and I understand that. And I'm blessed to be able to be a channel to put that forth. And, you know, I'm just going to end with saying that, especially with everything that's been happening this past year, you know, with George Floyd and then DMX, and, you know, it is up to us to determine the narrative. It is up to us to say, this is the language that we want used. When my colleagues call it the George Floyd trial, and I have to take my ass into the office and say, let me correct you on that, because this man is not on trial. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Or when my colleagues say, oh, but you know, DMX OD'd. Chuck, you was talking to Lisa yesterday, Lisa Evers. Is that who you did? Of course, she beat me. She beat me to you.
Yeah. Holla at me.
Yeah, I will. You know, so Lisa was my longtime colleague, you know, because I worked at WPIX, I worked at Good Day New York, at Fox 5, I worked in Florida. So, you know, I always come back to WPIX and take a seriously drastic pay cut, because as you know, it's like Jay-Z said, the UPN and the nigga news, right? They don't pay the way the the traditional networks do. However, I get my capital because they let me do what I want to do. They let me tell the stories how I want to tell them. And that freedom you can't put a price on that. You know, so when they tell me, hey, you know, this is what we're thinking about covering, and this is the lead. No, you're not going to say that he had a stroke and the lead line is because he OD'd. You're going to say this is a rap icon, and I actually edit these scripts. I'm responsible for looking at these things and for assigning the reporters and for really giving them context. So it's a big responsibility. And like I said before, I didn't consider myself to be a gatekeeper. And then I realized that that's because that's our lives. That's what we live every day. And we are a commodity. And I'm just really, really happy to just be in this energy right now, because it just reminds me, like, we have work to do. So thank you.
Right. Thank you, Veronica. Yep. Veronica already highlighted some of the issues that we're going to talk about today. And it was getting really, really interesting. And I think the next panelist that I would like to you to introduce yourself would be Roslynn. Hi, Roslynn. The space and time is yours.
Hi, guys. Wow, what an honor to be on here with all of you. You know, I really grew up watching MTV, BET, listening to the Wake Up Show, So, in college, I created a third floor radio underground hip hop show, interviewing my icons, A Tribe Called Quest, Slum Village, De La Soul, Mos Def, UMCs, you name it, right? And then I fell into marketing, and we launched a site called myspace.com. It was a .com, so I thought I was going to be there for a good year. I didn't know it would become the #1 website in the world. And thanks to Chuck, I forgot what year it was, but I launched MySpace Hip Hop. And our first show was with Chameleonaire.
Yeah, we did some good work. Yeah.
So I oversaw a team that, we're more on the social media side, but what we really did was, impacting it a different way. E40, Tell Me When to Go was the first song to premiere online. And then all of a sudden the hyphy movement took over. So I'm gracefully blessed to be a part of those memorable moments in hip hop culture. Maybe not on the writing side, but when it was, Eminem performing for a show for those that got laid off in Detroit, or Jay-Z was releasing his next album with DJ Hero, and then Chuck, we were in Chicago, I think for T.I., and doing his last show before he went to jail with Rihanna and Kanye. So now since then, since we sold MySpace and I sold my own company, I actually went back to the Philippines for the very first time, and I was old already, 36 years old. And Yacko, I'm so glad that you're here. And when I was there, I went with the Black Eyed Peas, Joe Coy, Cassie, Leanne V, and executives from YouTube, etc. I actually learned a lot more about my culture. I grew up in hip hop culture, but learning about the ancestry, I get choked up thinking about it, but the ancestry of the African tribes of the Philippines, then Spanish colonization, then American colonization, and then, our own indigenous culture being lost in that. So after that, I made it a point to really go behind Filipino culture in events, in artists, etc. And now we're at a really great point where we have artists like Her, or Sweetie, or Bruno Mars, Pilo, etc., that are these mixed cultures. But at the same time, when I oversee Mix, which is a global TV network, we're on 20 million homes in the United States, DirecTV, Comcast, etc., and we're the MTV of the Philippines. We're able to put Pink Sweats, Russ, a lot of these great artists on our platform to internationalize hip hop as well. And Philippines, it's a trigger market, just like Malaysia and Indonesia, where we have a lot of streamers, where we have a lot of people in the country. So we really help bring streams to really great artists. And that's what my mission is to really bridge the gap between, Philippines, between the US, between Asia, and then just introducing of what Filipino culture is. We're a mixed breed of all cultures, from Black to Asian to Spanish, and we're cousins with all of you. So that's it. I'm so honored, Renee. We've been longtime friends ever since the De La, and I'm like just happy to be here. So I'm getting here mostly just to listen, but thank you for having me.
Right, Roslynn, thank you so much for the stories. I would like to proceed to MastaFive. Hi, MastaFive.
Hi, nice to meet you all. So, first of all, excuse me for my bad English.
No,
it's all right.
You're all good, bro.
Your English is better than my any other language, so don't worry.
So I hope to explain. I hope to explain everything really clearly that can I. So, first of all, I'm a DJ. I'm DJing, and if you know the real DJ spread the best music that he know in the best way for the people, and this is creates my own when I started to write on the Italian magazine, and was only magazine of 360 degrees music, not only for black music or hip hop. I started to work with a lot of people to create another magazine that they're starting to talk about the hip hop like culture, not only the music style, style music style. I don't know what is the right definition. I write for Groove magazine, Beat magazine, The Bone, a couple of articles when I was younger for the Source to report something from Italy, and so I became not really journalist, but writing about hip hop culture. Today, when I'm no guy from Switzerland that born in Africa in Congo, and he grew up in the the Switzerland is divided in four corner, and there is the corner in the south, southwest, that there is a corner of Italian way. He lived in the Italian way like a black guy from Congo in Switzerland, and when he go for the first time, he returned in Africa when he was 18. The people in Africa don't recognize him like an African, but like a man from the Switzerland, like a European, and no one can relate with him. When he returned in Switzerland, take the crisis of himself, what I am. I'm not African. I'm not Italian. I speak Italian, but I'm not Italian because I've been here in Switzerland, and who I am. And the only thing that he can say is that I am hip hop, because everywhere I go, I found people that look like me with the dresses, with the speak, the music. And the only thing that I can say with no doubts is that I'm hip hop. And the first time that I hear like a white guy, so I live in Italy with the major people in Italy was a white people. I say I am Italian with easy way. And when I understand when there is someone that I don't know where I come from, who I am, and say for sure I'm hip hop from this time and after, is the same way that I want to spread the message to the people. That is the only culture really global that can relate to people like us right now in this Zoom, in this panel. And so I lost my definition. So I don't represent hip hop, but hip hop represents me. This is the way that I want to talk to the people. There is a lot of artists, there is a lot of MC rappers that want to say I'm representing real hip hop, and nobody care that hip hop represent him. And this is my work right now to spread this message to the people. Also, in Italy, we got already the problem from north against south. Imagine when there is some people coming from outside, in people for the politician, everything, everything what happened in the media. Every time some media talking about hip hop, talking about it's a funny music, is something for the guys, for the younger, and it's very hard to make the people understand what is the real culture that we growing up. But we made it. We made it with the show, TV show, with the freestyle battle on TV, because the people, you starting from the entertaining to goes to talking about it. What something like hip hop created in these 45 years. Also, I'm younger like you. uh, I am from the 1976. And so I'm growing up with the hip hop, like the book that coming out 3 years ago. So the hip hop grow me, and this is what I do. Right now, I am member of a radio that called Rap Beats Radio. Is only rap station all over the world, not only Italian, not only American, not only European, but all over the world. And also, we try to make a new radio that's called Radio for Music, because it's for the music, and is the easy way to go to the other people that don't care about the rap music, the urban music, but we can expose something good. Also, I'm a promoter, and in these years, in these 30 years, I make the live of already said De La Soul, Slam Village, a lot of these several artists that we already said in this panel. And so I think that is the real DNA that can relate every one of us in this panel. Also the people that follow what we right now we're talking about. So that is what I say.
Right, that's what's up. You know, that pretty much like hip hop, what brings us together today, right? And yeah, that's an interesting idea. I am hip hop, and then Veronica already has the idea to order the shirt for all of us. That's great. And the back of the T-shirt, it would be, I don't represent hip hop. Hip hop represents me. That's what's up. Awesome. All right. So thank you, MastaFive. And then I'd like to go to the last panelist. Would be Mona Lina.
Hey everybody, I need the t-shirt. Oh my God. It's amazing.
The space and time is yours.
Oh my God. Well, yeah, I'm actually super honored and super moved to be here. As you might hear, I'm not native speaker as well, so please excuse if I make any mistakes with my English, but it is so moving to hear all of these stories, like how hip hop shaped everyone's life, because I got into hip hop when I was like 9 years old, and it was kind of by accident, because hip hop wasn't really big in Germany back then. There was a hip hop scene, but especially in my hometown, so I come from a small town in Eastern Germany, at this time there wasn't any hip hop. So I bought a CD compilation actually at McDonald's. So McDonald's had, for whatever reason, CD compilations, and there was Run DMC on it, and it changed my life. So McDonald's changed my life. Thank you very much, but don't go there. Whatever. I like being like 9 to 10 years old. I wasn't really one of the cool kids. I was kind of shy, and I was the only one into hip hop at my school. So I was sitting home watching MTV all the time, and like a few years after that, like this Run DMC thing happened to me. I watched MTV and at late night, and I saw Talib Kweli, and this was the second moment that changed my life. It was like, oh my God, what is this? I need to know everything about it. And that's when I started turning on the computer of my stepdad, and I went online, and my English was way worse back then, but I translated with my dictionary anything I could find on hip hop, and I tried to find out as much as possible about this. So being able to have access to information because of the internet, because I didn't have any hip hop friends in the real world, was, for me, it changed everything. And because I wanted to participate, and because I wanted to share my knowledge and to share my opinion on hip hop, I started writing like on MySpace and in communities and stuff. So I just started texting reviews on new albums and stuff. And that's when I started doing some kind of journalism. I became a chief editor of a really small hip hop magazine in Germany called Rap Spot when I was 18. And this also happened by accident. It was an online community first, and then got into a magazine, and we needed a chief editor, and everyone said, Lina should do it. I was like, okay, then I'll do it. And I remember like going to Splash Festival, which is like the biggest hip hop festival in Germany, a few weeks after that, and having to do interviews. And I was like, hi, I'm Lina. Whoa, I have no idea what I'm doing. Whoa. And I did interviews with Datwon, and I remember him being super drunk and me having no idea what to do because I was like shy girl being hi. And so I learned everything from scratch. I had no idea about what I was doing. I just loved writing and I loved hip hop. Like hip hop ruled everything around me. It was just, it was everything. And I did this magazine for 7 years. And then a German rapper, which I really like, asked me if I could do his PR. And I was like, okay, I have no idea, but yeah, why not? So I started doing his PR. And then more and more people called me if I could do PR. So that's when I started working as a PR agent for like several German hip hop artists here. And I also worked for like a few from abroad. For example, I did PR for MastaFive here in Germany and for EMC. And it was EMC who gave me the name Mona Lina, by the way. Oh my God. Yeah, I started doing this. I also started working as a DJ. I started dealing with hip hop at university. So I graduated with a thesis about Africa Bambata, and I did like everything I do, it had to be with hip hop. But I actually, when I started my PR company, I actually left journalism. I felt like, okay, journalism, it's like music journalism, it's not going to happen because it's so hard to get into this field, especially on a small market like Germany. It's nearly impossible to make a living out of journalism. And so I decided to go to the PR sector. But then like 3 years ago, something happened, like, especially here in Germany, we are still like a few years behind the international hip hop scene when it comes to female voices in the music scene. And being a CEO of a hip hop PR agency and being female, people treat you like a unicorn. So they are always like, oh, it's so special. And how can you do it as a woman in this bad hip hop scene, blah, blah. So I met a lot of people who told me, as a woman, I have no right to be in the hip hop scene. And I also met some guys, and especially some rappers, who were like, yeah, women just aren't able to do hip hop because of their genetics. That's like, So I had a lot of discussions on this, and I was super mad. I was super angry. And because I was so angry, I started a blog again called, so my idea was to, like, for 1 year, to introduce one female rapper from all over the world, one for each day. And because I'm very creative with names, I named it 365 female MCs. So I started this blog. I also, so I wrote one portrait each day about another female rapper. I also wrote a portrait about Yacko. Yes, I did. I started it, didn't really expect anything to happen, but it blew off in Germany. It blew off that much that I got asked to write for numerous radio stations here in Germany. So I'm an author for WDR and DLF Kultur, which are like two of the biggest broadcasting stations here. I also won the International Music Journalism Award at Reeperbahn Festival, which is like the biggest music industry happening in Germany. And it was like the craziest moment of my life, winning an award for writing about hip hop. What? Yeah, right now this blog series is 3 years old. So we have almost 800 MCs featured on it, way more than 365. And 1 year ago, I started a record label, which is also all female. So I made this blog record label. So right now I'm a PR person, music journalist, A&R manager, and DJ, but I'm not really DJing right now for obvious reasons. So I bring several views on this whole topic. I am super thankful that media and hip hop are related to each other, because if there wasn't any media that covered hip hop, I probably would never know about it. Because I mean, Germany is so far away from the place where hip hop was born. And for me, there's nothing that shaped my life the way hip hop did, the way hip hop does every day. And like, it's still, you know, I think back like when I was 12 to 13 years old, sitting in front of my little TV in my room, watching MTV, watching Talib Kweli, and watching all of my idols, and where I am now. And it's, I just don't, sorry. Yeah, so that's my story. And yes, I am still in love with hip hop. I am still in love with what I'm doing, and I'm so moved and honored to be here. Yes.
That's impressive. She is hip hop.
Very,
Real
very,
definition
very.
of hip hop.
I love it. Wow.
Very.
Right. Wow. That gives us a lot of good points to start with, actually, right, Jerry? Do you
Yes,
yeah.
I had one question written down that I want to tweak a little bit, because for selfish reasons and because some of the other things were already covered a little bit. We were going to start with what inspired you to get into media, but I wanted to tweak it a little bit to what keeps you inspired to stay in media, because all of us here have a certain level of experience already, and our industry is in such a state of flux. You know, this last year has not been very good for media in terms of staffing, in terms of the existence of publications. So given the challenges that our industry is going through, what keeps you interested in media, and specifically when it comes to hip hop? And this goes out to anyone who wants to answer.
I guess I'll jump in. I would say the thing that keeps me inspired the most is probably just still having the feeling of being connected to hip hop. Even as I get older, I'm still inspired by it. I still want to know what's going on. I think that comes from me just being a young kid from Brooklyn and being immersed in the music and the culture, and you know, people breakdancing and graffiti and all the different elements. It still resonates within me, even though I don't get to see all of it. So I try to, you know, sprinkle those things within everything that I do. And even though as my my career has evolved, I still try to check on who's the hot who and what's the hot what, you know. And I think that's the one thing that keeps me inspired. I think my kids do as well. You know, my nephews and nieces, that younger generation, they're always coming to me with something, or they want to show me something to get my kind of like viewpoint on it. I think that's another thing. And then I would have to say my peers, like seeing the things that, you know, Jerry or Chuck or Leah or my man Jay and Bonsu and different people, what they're doing. I'm always interested, and usually whatever they're doing is connected to media. And also checking out the young upstarts and how people are disrupting media and how they always kind of have like this through line to the music or the entertainment aspect of things. So I think that's it, and just my own innate passion for it, you know.
I'll piggyback off of that. I think that there's a need for us still, more so now than ever. I think if you look at, the landscape, when we started, as well as in the earlier part of the 2000s, a lot of the folks that we came up with are now integrated within other systems, and that's a good thing. I think also there's a need for some of us to stay on the outside and maintain some of that independence to continually check the various publications or to be that representative. So, someone saw me on Fox 5 yesterday talking about DMX, and they're like, "Man, you talk so proper." And I'm like, "Yeah, but you heard that content though. That, I know how to speak the King's language, but also to get across that DMX didn't do crack on his own. He was, given crack unknowingly, and making sure that stays in the forefront of the conversation about his addiction, rather than just talking about him being a crack addict or whatever the case may be, and to giving that context on broader platforms, which that's a fight worth fighting for, I think, and our humanity is at stake in a lot of instances. So, so for me, I'm always here for the fight, and that's a spirit that lives within me, and as well, the state of journalism, Aliya mentioned, is there a state of is there hip hop journalism? And yes, there is. There is hip hop journalism, and there is a need for people from the culture, of the culture, to continue to chronicle the culture and represent it well. And what is happening is we are now following the ways of mainstream corporate outlets, and I'm not necessarily a fan of that. So there's a lot of layers to it, but I would love to see a continuation and an evolution from where we came from, to continue for our voices to be loud and proud and unabashedly hip hop moving forward.
I agree 100%, and I think to what Chuck just said, a really important aspect to think about is like hip hop, for all intents and purposes, is the most dominant form of music in the world right now. So of course you want everyone within, or not every, or you want as many people as possible within our community to be able to speak on it and give that context, because because it's the most dominant form of music in the world. There are tons of people coming in who have no idea about anything. Like you look at somebody like Pop Smoke, for example, who unfortunately was assassinated last February. Like there are so many people who just learn about rappers in general because they got killed. So we need to have people within our community who really understand where these people come from, and like the things that they go through and the things that they have to worry about. Like Pop Smoke thought he was safe by chilling in California, and they came and got him. Like DMX has been struggling with everything he had been going through for decades, and unfortunately he wound up losing that battle. But that doesn't make him, that doesn't mean that we should be portraying him as some sort of like reckless drug addict, and like that's part of what inspires me, on top of the fact that like I feel like I'm speaking for everybody here, but like rap saved my life. Like I didn't start talking until I was like about 4 years old, and when I started talking, it was because I wanted to talk about film and movies. That was it. That was all I wanted to talk about. And like that's what inspired me to like make words with my mouth. So like this shit means everything to me. And one of the big things that still keeps me inspired, especially with the pandemic, and like Jerry was saying before, how everything is kind of in flux, is finding ways to bring all of these things together. I forgot to mention earlier that I literally just started my own podcast called the Real Notes Podcast, which is I just talk about the relationship between rap and film, because they're my two favorite things on planet Earth. And you know, so like that's been a new challenge for me because I've never done a podcast before, but I've seen so many people that I respect and admire do it, and I like to talk. So I figured I might as well just like take all this experience I've had and all these connections I made through journalism and just like put it to two things. Like I feel like everybody likes movies, and I feel like we're kind of more appreciative of theaters since most of us can't go to them right now, and like we're just willing to talk about it. So far I've talked to Billy Woods and Elucidative Arm and Hammer, and two of my favorites, Masai and J Words, their duo Air. I've talked to The Lasso, and I just published an episode with Pink Seafood with Fly Anakin. Shout out to Liv and Frank. So just trying to find new avenues and just like contextualize things through different forms of media, like that's been pushing me a lot, and it's already made me even hungrier than I already was before to like find new things. And like there's treasure everywhere, which I'm sure we're going to get to later, but like there's treasure everywhere, all the old, the new, everything, bro. Like there's just so much good out there right now. It doesn't pay to be stuffy in 2021. So just, you know, like that's it for me.
I think for me, what keeps me here is accountability. When I look at this screen and I realize y'all will hold me accountable. Somebody will come check me if something happens and it's like, oh wait, you're a TV producer and you let that happen. So accountability keeps me here. And the desire to chronicle the culture, like Chuck said, like I can chronicle the culture because I grew up in Park Slope before Park Slope was Park Slope. You know what I'm saying? I can chronicle the culture because I had to do that walk, you know, from the hood to the good school, you know, and we all had to do that. And so we all live in like these two worlds that a lot of people don't understand, not to mention I'm a Black Dominican. So that's 3 worlds right there, 4 or 5, you know? And so, you know, when we talk about this integration, I see the integration, and like I say, I try to stand on the periphery of it, but I'm in it. And while I'm in it, I'm gonna do something about it, you know, because that's the seat at the table. And then at the same time, being able to empower people to create pathways like Dylan is doing, like Chuck has already done, like Jerry has done, like Day has done, like Aliya is doing. You know, we need to know that we got each other's backs, because creating these pathways, man, it's difficult, you know, so difficult that when you have, you know, award-winning journalists like Melissa Harris Perry leaving leaving MSNBC to go do her own thing on YouTube because they would not hold her down. You know, when you have Soledad O'Brien doing the same thing. And speaking of Talib Kweli, you know, when you have Talib Kweli challenging Don Lemon on CNN, that was the first time white people had ever had an idea of the intricacies of what it is that we're talking about. You know, so they needed somebody to break that down. So who they gonna look at? Oh, the only other Black person in here that's always hip hopping to something. I always live with when I was in the office, I used to live with my headphones on. And sometimes I would just forget that the Biggie would be blasting. And my headphone pads would come out and people would look at me like, is that your computer? And it's like, oh yeah, sorry. Yep, sorry, you know.
Yeah.
But it's just being present, man, is what keeps me there. And I'm gonna do it. And because we are who we are, we were born to fight and win. So I'm gonna keep fighting for my culture, you know, and I'm not, you know, I'm not gonna let anybody tell my story. I got the accreditation to tell my own story, God damn it. You know, so I'm going to do that. And that's what keeps me here.
Aliya, I'm gonna pick on you because you have the most recent transition, you know, after being at Level for several years and now moving into books. What keeps you inspired to keep in media? You could have gone and done something else. You're on mute.
What keeps me inspired besides my bills? They're my number one source of inspiration. That's such a good question. So the one thing that's a little bit different, I always feel a little like guilty when we have these conversations because it was not hip hop that brought me in. It was writing. Like if I would have ended up, you know, hip hop has just been I'm from East Orange, New Jersey. Illtown,
Jersey,
Naughtyville, Whitney Houston, Your Name Is, Queen Latifah. Okay. So hip hop was not something I ever discovered, you know, but it was also not my thing. Like it was there. And there was no not knowing it. But when I was at the source and I had my headphones on, I'm bopping like I'm listening to the new DMX, and it's Luther Vandross Dance with My Father again, playing in my headphones because that was who I was. I've been unabashedly pop, R&B, Mariah, you know, that was my thing. Now, of course, I love hip hop. That's not even a question. That's who I am. It's in my blood. But when it came time to me listening to my own stuff, it was very different from what was happening at the places where I worked. And for me, it's always been about writing. That's all I've ever wanted to do. Since I was 4 years old, I never thought about any other career. I never thought about any other thing to do. I once took a piece of paper and folded it in half to make it look like a book. And I was about 5 or 6, and I wrote by Aliya King on it. And I just was like, oh, okay, so here we go. So how do we get here? How does this turn into an actual thing? Because I need to see my name like this. So for me, the inspiration has always just been, how can I continue to write? How can I continue to tell stories? But also, of course, and I credit Level with this too. With Level, I was writing, but I was also trying to bring in writers as much as I could. And that's when I started to realize, like, you know, when I would work at places, I would be annoyed if I couldn't write the thing. Like at the source, and this is terrible, but I guess it's been long enough that I could say it now. I would assign people things and then write the story myself and pretend like it was written by this other person. Just because I'm terrible.
Ghostwriter.
I would say, Carlito, we should do a story on blah, blah, blah. And he's like, that's dope. This is Carlito Rodriguez, you know, super OG editor-in-chief of the source. And he would say, that's dope. ASK, get on it. You should assign that to so-and-so. And I would be like, but I could do it. And he's like, no, you're already writing 19 things. Get somebody else to do it. And I would be like, okay, who shall I get? Oh, I got Datwon to do it. Yay. Datwon's like, what? I'm writing? Shut up. Just shut up. You're not writing it. I'm writing it. And I just was like, you know, it was sad, but I was always jealous if I worked at a publication and other people were doing stories that I wanted to do. That's not how that works. I'm aware of that now. But where I am now is I really love seeing new faces, new names in print. I really love being able to say, hey, so-and-so, you want this opportunity? Can we, you know, get you together? Like Datwon will tell you, in the early days, we were very competitive. Like all of us, we having a love fest now, and there were love fests then too. But please understand that I will kick you down a flight of steps at the Palladium if I feel like you writing too many stories. Like, no, we're not doing it. Well, not the Palladium, because that was actually sort of kind of before my time. But what inspires me now is both my own work, obviously, but like this first week, wait, hold on, back up. Where is this gonna be? Who gonna see this? How deep are we getting up on here? Y'all not gonna get me in trouble.
Oh, we're kind of live right now.
We're live on Facebook right now.
A little late for that.
Kind of down the road a little bit.
I thought we were doing this, and then it was gonna go up next week.
Nah, it's good.
We're doing it live.
It's going up. All the way up.
Okay. What was I saying? So I was about to get into my first week at work, but we're gonna not gonna talk about my first week at work. But what I will say, you know, my job is to acquire 8 to 10 books a year in all genres, except fiction. I feel like fiction might be a little difficult for me because I want everybody's novel to get published, and it's just a lot harder to massage a novel to life. I can do nonfiction, you know, a bit easier for me starting out. Maybe at one point I'll do fiction, but right now, no fiction, but every other possible genre imaginable. And when they said 8 to 10 books a year, I was like, well, what? That's it. And now I'm realizing just what it takes to get 10 books from start to finish. It's a lot. It is a lot. And I have to see these books to the finish line. It's not like I'm just going to acquire the book and then someone else is going to go off and do the things. No, I'm going to edit it. I'm going to work on the cover art. I'm going to help with the marketing plan. We're going to do publicity all the way. That book is my baby all the way. And, you know, as an author, I'm seeing so much of how much work goes into this, because I hand in my book and then I whine because I don't like the cover. And then I'm mad because I'm not going to big enough tour. And now I'm seeing all the things that happen on the other side of it. But I'm so excited about the idea of not just my book. You know, I've put out maybe a book every 2 or 3 years. The idea that I could give birth to someone's book 8 times in 1 year and see these things come to life. Yeah, I'm not the jealous, why don't I get to write this person that I was 20 years ago. Now I'm excited about giving people a voice. So I'm definitely newly inspired. And I want to say that, you know, they approached me about the job. I was immediately like, nah, that's not what I do. I'm on the other side. And when I thought about what that actually meant, I couldn't help but think about, you know, all of us and how we needed gatekeepers. We needed people to get us in the door. I think about Denise Milner, an amazing writer who is publishing my first children's book this fall, and how she worked at Parents Magazine in the 90s. And a lot of us got our first mainstream clips because she opened up the back door and said, come on in. And I think about, you know, everybody here on this panel has been responsible for at least one person getting on in some kind of way. So I feel like it's sort of a responsibility I have at this stage in my career, if I can still write, to be in this seat and see people get books published. Like, how do I not do that? I kind of felt like this is the first non-selfish career choice I've ever made. Everything else has always been like, this is what I want. This is the first time like, nah, you need to go get in that seat because you got to open up the door for some folks. So that's what's inspiring me now. The idea that I can move on from just being a tantruming writer to being someone who is opening up the door for other folks.
Nice. Roslynn, what about you? What still keeps you in this daily grind of media?
So I think someone mentioned it before, but the changing of the platforms, you know, I think when we launched myspace.com, I had a really hard time because none of the managers or labels wanted to create profiles for their artists. They said, there's no way that these artists are going to be this personable, right? So I went through a phase of just really trying to, you know, the artists were first on board to really tell their story on social media. And that's why we were able to then, you know, take it to that next level. And I think that's what keeps me inspired now is, you know, I grew up listening to storytelling. You know, I was a big fan of Slick Rick. I was a big fan of all of these great artists. And now it's changed another form rather than be social media. For me, it's using TV. So creating really great music videos or whether shows that really, you know, tell stories where people feel now represented because of that piece of work. For example, you know, we just worked on Guap Dad 4000's latest project, 1176. It's about him growing up in Oakland, but raised by a Filipino grandmother and grandfather, you know, and some of the songs we were able to release and music videos really were able to tell a story in a different way, where a whole generation of youth now feel represented because of that piece of work, or that they listen to that and they hear the story and now they're sharing that across social media. So that's what keeps me inspired is knowing that, you know, there's a unification process that's happening with so much happening in the world, with so much dividing us, you know, and now we're going through different layers of this ongoing racism. You know, it just really inspires me to find any way to try to bring us together and being the gatekeeper for some of the stories is what helps.
Yeah, great.
And Mona Lina, what still keeps you inspired?
Well, first of all, it's like hip hop is my life, you know. It's what I do every day. I wouldn't really know what else to do, to be honest. So it's not really that I have a choice. I mean, I do have a choice, but it's what I do best. And so it's not really something I think about, to be honest. But when Aliya talked about responsibility, this was something I can really relate to, because like a few years ago, I really struggled about my decision of going into the music industry, because I felt like, okay, I have this one life and I should use it with like purpose. And now I spend my lifetime on music and on hip hop and on what I love, but I'm not really helping other people with it. I mean, I do, I'm promoting music, I'm pushing people. So on the one hand side I do, but I just saw my stepmother being a doctor and I was like, okay, she is saving lives and I'm not saving lives with what I'm doing. So it's not as good. And I was really struggling with this one. But then when I started this female hip hop blog, as I mentioned earlier, I really didn't think it would have such an impact that it had. And I had some female MCs writing me that they actually wanted to quit rapping because they were like so disgusted by this whole sexism in the music industry. And they wanted to quit, but when they discovered my blog and my work, they decided to keep on releasing music and to keep on doing rap. And that's when I felt like, okay, I am changing something and I am doing something. And I started building up my own team, like with my PR agency. I have 4 amazing young women working for me. And I remember when we have our team sessions, it's all online right now, of course. I remember one of them telling me, okay, with my other job I had, it's so toxic. And when I'm here in this team, it's such a wonderful atmosphere and I feel empowered and I feel welcomed. And I am now in the position to hire people and to give them a working environment where they feel safe and welcomed and appreciated. And this is something I always missed in the music industry and like in general, not in the hip hop scene, but in the music industry where everyone is kind of, oh, it's my space. And I'm not that kind of person. I always like peace, love, and yes. So I am now able to build this space and this community and yeah, this environment for other people, for other women especially. And I feel like this is my purpose. So I'm trying to change a bit of this hip hop industry, this music industry from within here in Germany. And even like there are some days where I feel like, okay, what have I gotten myself into because I'm working all the day. But then I listen to Lauryn Hill, I listen to MastaFive, I listen to this and I know why I am doing it. It's never going away. Like I can be super tired and super frustrated because some of my clients are not able to breathe without me. I don't know, but still, it's what I love. It's what's keeping me alive, and I can change something, especially for other women who are as enthusiastic about it as I am, and that's why I need to be here and why I need to stay here.
And MastaFive.
Great. So, so I listen to everything right now, and what I want to say before to say what inspired me is that the first time that I learned that we got only one life is when I start the second of mine. It was an incident with a car when I was 17. And so when I wake up the day after, I started to think about what we happen, we do it, and what happened, and lost time on in everything that, for example, Lina already talked. And this is one of the reason that I started to think that what I really like in my life and what inspired me is something like jazz is the shades, and not only the blue, the red, the green, the the principal colors of of this life, but the shades is what define us. And an example, the first time that I listened a funny song of De La Soul, Me, Myself, and I started to think that we need to be ourselves. I need to be myself. The only difference that we can make in this life is to be ourselves. And so I found that this in the hip hop and in the message of Universal Zulu Nation when I was younger. And it's a very important message because it's based on infinity lesson, and the lesson is infinity. It's not only 10, 100, 1000, it's really infinity. And when I learned this, I started to talking about to the people to condivided the message, condivided the lessons, also the experience. And I started to think that only the shades on this can make the can define the hip hop culture, not only something that happened in the north, in the south, in the west, in the east, but is what is in the middle. For example, when the other media talking about the gangster rap, don't talking about never talking about what happened in the hood, or what happened with African American people and Asian from the government, and starting everything in that what, for example, Ice Cube telling in the song. Only take that the word gun, only take the word fight, hate, and start talking about it. Don't care about the shades in these tracks, in these songs, in what happened. And so when I grow up and after my 21 birthday, I make a choice and to explain to people what I learned from the shades. Like jazz, jazz is not only trumpet, drum, or solo moments. Is something like create the groove. And for example, the record of Gangster Hard Heard define this sound like the boom bap sound, but with the sound putting out the groove, the shades of literally several songs, and the lyrics of Guru explain what happened in the shades. And I think this is a mission of us to explain the people not only the difference, but what is similar in the shades. You know that in the shadow, maybe there is nothing, but maybe there's a treasure. Like I don't remember who talking about. Maybe Dylan Green. And so we are here to discover this treasure, and also, and finally, the people call me dryer because I talk too much. but I love to spread what I learned from of course the music. But for example, when we promote or create a concert, live concert or jam, what happening in the jam on the live is something that not really you can repeat in your life. Is that the moment there is not before, no exists before, none exists after. And if we are here in this moment, we got the I don't know the right word, but I say mission, but what I mean that I must talk what happened and what I learned from this to the people. Is not, and also we are not um, so the other media push us to think that we are alone, and there is not much people that think about things so similar what I say, for example, what we say right now on the panel. And but I don't know if we are the majority or the minority, but we are several numbers of person in this world, and we need to keep in touch and spread what we learn. What we learn is not only the word of peace, unity, having fun, is something what really mean. And so, for example, uh, Aliya say, open the door to another one. Condivided is the way. And so maybe you got idea and you think that someone else stolen from you, but is the reason is that to grow up this idea, so we need to share it. It's not only the thing that so is my idea. I want the I want all that recognizes my name is something stupid that we see what happened when what happened something like this. I like when see a stage where there is from old schooler with younger beginner rookie from new scene, but the only thing is not that what you represent for music industry or the people, but you represent for, so we rapping, we make music, and not really important where you come from, where you at. I know that is the same words that you listen from everyone in hip hop culture, but is simple that there is the shades. It's not only right and left, like I already say. This is my inspiration.
Right.
Oh.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, I can say that from what you all have said before, that I think if I can draw the line, what keeps you inspired in the media would be because media gives you this the feeling that you can empower other people, and then that you can share stories from there, and then that somebody got to do it, right? And then writing keeps you inspired to be in the media as well. And in other words, somebody got to do the education part, because we know these days that so many the younger generations, they often just absorb everything instantly. Like whatever they see in the social media, that's what they take, without without even bother to dig their roots and everything like that. So the sense of urgency of knowing the roots, that would be really important these days. And I think that's what keeps you stay in the media until now. And that actually interesting, because there are so many positive things that happens in hip hop. And sometimes they are not put in the forefront of the media, right? From where I came from, in Indonesia, hip hop is not hip hop is not our culture, but it's been part of our music industry since the 90s. And even though we live in the population of 200 million people, still hip hop is still segmented. And then people see hip hop and people who the artists in hip hop, it's somewhat, they portraying it, it's only about rich, about bling blings, all about guns, gangsters, and then the women's objectification, and then all those things. And then so my question would be, this is also related to Lina, that you see that hip hop sometimes can be really patriarchal, and then can be also be like portraying women in some sort of way. So what are your thoughts of how women and people of color are portrayed? And then usually there's a lot of sexual harassment as well happen in the in hip hop, in the media. And so do you see the urgency of educating people to fight this sexual harassment through the media? And what would be the most effective way for media, and through hip hop, to do that thing, to educate people? Does that make sense?
I kind of would like to speak to this a little bit. I think, and I definitely want to open the, let others jump in, because I don't think there's a single answer to this. But it's funny, one of my writers, Kathy, she recently wrote a book called God Save the Queens, which is an anthology about women in hip hop. It's a great book. But she said something to me that I didn't even remember. Long time ago too, by the way. She said that she went to interview some rapper, and it was actually a rapper from the conscious hip hop community, and we'll keep that group nameless, but they were very disrespectful to her, and she said they called her a groupie or something like that. I forget exactly what it was. She'll probably be able to tell it better. But when she said she came to me and told me about it, I told her immediately to write about it, and we would post it on All Hip Hop. I literally don't remember it, but she told me this is what happened. And I think that there's a push and a pull, and within the culture, we're always trying to better ourselves. And I think we're unfortunately or fortunately highly reflective of what is wrong in society in a lot of instances. So hip hop is a mirror. And so those of us that want to improve our conditions and improve the culture's position in this world, and I think we're a mirror to the world as well, not just ourselves. But I think we have to continue to call things out and continue to call each other out, and continue to contextualize where things are coming from. I'm working with a friend of mine on, this anti-Asian sentiment, if you will, that seems to be pervasive in this moment. And we're trying to just get to the root of things, and really trying to communicate well amongst ourselves first, and then taking that out into the world, and into even the hip hop community, as well as the broader community too. So I think as writers and editors, we're responsible for gently guiding the culture. But I think that on the other side of things, it's problematic when these other forces have a vested interest in keeping hip hop negative, or keeping it in this state of stupidity, or keeping it only misogynistic, or sexist, or hateful, or negative. And I think there's a concerted effort to keep it in that space. And unfortunately, I think then it replicates itself, and then the artist or the or even the personnel at various companies continue to be conduits for those in power.
Yeah. I've been having am I muted?
No, you're not.
I've been having a tough time with all of this lately, because I came up in an era where you just make sure you wear baggy clothes and don't be cute and don't wear makeup and don't drink and don't smoke. And I mean, I literally in 22 years, I think I may have had a single glass of wine with a rapper ever. I think I may have smoked a half a blunt once with the Locks, but we won't get into that story. But technically it doesn't count because I was just hanging out. I wasn't writing a story on them. But like, you know, I was always so like, it seems ridiculous now, but I felt like I was responsible to make sure that nothing happened to me. I did not think it was up to the people I was covering to have some goddamn sense. I always believed it was on me. It was still a very skirt down, cross your legs situation. But at the same time, I was lucky that, I mean, when I got to the stores, I was the only woman in the music department, but I felt very protected. Like I knew I could call Carlito. I knew I could call Smokey. I knew I could, like nothing was gonna happen to me. I felt protected, but at the same time, I should not have had to feel like I needed to be protected. I'll give you one example. This is not the source, but a place where I worked, there was an editor there. If he was an editor, there was a higher up there that you would have to sometimes go give some paperwork to. And you knew the women that if he called you in, that there was a good chance he was going to try to close the door and try something. Did I say something? No. What did I do? We had this system in place that if I saw his number pop up on my phone, I would immediately call someone else and say, yo, take this walk with me over to so-and-so's office. So I'm not going over there by myself. And the person's like, oh, sure, let's go. It's like, we thought that was normal, that you need a fucking buddy to go to somebody's office and drop off some paperwork. So I felt like I was, privileged. Like, look at me, I don't have to, deal with this. But when I think back on it, it's like, why was that okay? Why were we even in that space? Why didn't I say something? Why didn't I go to HR and say, yo, I can't even go to this dude's office without some nonsense? So I want to see things different, because the truth of the matter is there's still dudes out there like that, or women like that. It's still, Me Too movement notwithstanding, I think it's a lot closer to the way it was in 1998 and 1999 than we would like to believe, unfortunately. Things are definitely getting more verbalized, things are getting more discussed, but I think in the everyday world, there's still probably a lot of people who feel like they have to dress a certain way before they go to do certain kinds of interviews. And it's tough, And I want to make sure that I'll give you an example on the other side. I have a 14-year-old and we're in an Uber, and the Uber driver is looking at her from the rearview mirror, and he's like, how are you today? And she's like, I'm good. Like, no. Oh, look at you with your blah, blah, blah. She's like, yeah, sure. She's looking down at her phone. And he said, what? I can't get a smile? And she looked up and said, I would smile if I had something to smile about. And I was like, you would think that I'd be like, yeah, girl, tell him. I wasn't. I was like, no, don't say that. Just ignore him, or just smile and say, there's a smile. That's how I felt, because that's what I've been dealing with. Then I was thinking to myself, what if she was in Uber by herself? Would I want her to say that to him? As much as that's the exact thing I want her to say, I still feel fearful of what would happen if she told some dude what she really thought. That's where we are now. I've raised this baby to know, F you and your smiles, I'm not smiling for you. And yet I'm still afraid of what that feels like and what that might mean. I know what it means when a dude says, what, you can't smile? I know what that means, and it's not good. So it's a weird space. I feel like we're making some progress, but at the same time, I'm a little concerned about what progress looks like. I'm babbling, but my point is that we still have quite some way to go. We have quite more, definitely have more discussions. And Chuck, the reason why Kathy brought that up to you is because you were an advocate and an ally for her. She felt heard and she felt seen. You didn't say to her, oh man, that's messed up, but we can't talk about that. And we didn't have a lot of those then. We don't have that many of them now. But but I guess it's getting better.
Yeah. Well, yeah. We don't talk to artists too much.
This is true.
Like, I'm
Not a
wondering,
problem.
do we get to spend
No.
time with artists anymore?
No, it's on the phone, on text, on DM.
Right.
I was real quick, just to add on to that part. I was just on the phone recently with Karen Good, who we were just talking about her Vibe cover story on DMX, and she mentioned how some of the younger set has to dealing with artists and not being able to have the time that we had, like in the late 90s to the early 2000s. She was doing a big piece for like Vanity Fair or something like that. One of this young woman that she was talking to, and they the PR team gave her a quote from Rihanna. It was a quote, and it was like, work with that. for
They gave her one quote?
A quote. It was like a paragraph quote, and she had to work a story around the quote. That just shows you the state of where we are with how deep we can get with artists. But then when you speak about the fact that you can go and be with an artist in their truck, and this is like our conversation, be with a artist in their truck back then with all types of paraphernalia and all types of different people, and you have to keep your wits about you because you're on call and you're actually working. It says a lot about where we are today. We don't have that kind of experience anymore to have an artist grab you or touch you or say that. But there are other ways of being able to be in contact with them that's a lot more different than the experience that people are saying, like, okay, I have an issue with how that person spoke to me. I have an issue with how that person sexually assaulted me, and issues like that. I know I'm babbling, but it's the fact that the times are so different, we can't even equate them in the same way. So when you're,
it's funny because we feel very strongly about this. Me, Jerry, and Datwon, we talk about this a lot in our personal conversations, and we are guys who are always trying to hold each other accountable as well as other men. And we, not that this matters in how we feel, but we all are fathers to daughters as well. And so we are super hypersensitive as well in that respect too. It's so
that, Chuck.
Yeah, and so, but that's not all of it as well. I'm just generally, my brain is like going kind of crazy right now. And I remember ASAP Rocky. I'll just call him out here live and in color. Pulled up on one of my writers one time and was like threatening her, and it was crazy. She came straight to me. This was at South by Southwest. I've never actually told this story, and I went to handle it. And so I was not like I was going to just like snuff him or anything, but just to speak to him. And it was probably the most dangerous situation I had been in personally in the industry, because, slowly, you're not going to let him disrespect, a friend as well as a colleague, but then you realize that this is circle forming around you. So I say all that to say this, and I can't speak for anyone else, I'm going to always stand on my square. But just to say that, a lot of us do represent the real, and that we do fight valiantly in a lot of ways to make sure that there's equitable situations in our companies as well as in our personal spaces, and that people do feel safe, and that we're creating a better scenario for our own for future generations. And I don't know. I've just found I can never quite wrap my brain around. And please, I hope I don't get judged too harshly on this, though. That women don't speak up, and to people like myself or Jerry or Datwon, and I'm just calling us out because we literally have these conversations all the time. And I say that because when I fired an employee, and this person had a weird interaction between a female employee or contract worker. It was just weird. And I actually didn't tell him it was because of that. I fired him for like a different reason, but that was the catalyst. And so later, after we fired this person, it was like all these people come out the woodwork like, hey, by the way, he did this, he did that, and I'm like, yo, why didn't you say something? I was like mad because I would have like handled that so much sooner had it been brought to my attention sooner. So I mean, again, I've actually asked several women friends and not peers about why, because it helps us understand who's who, you know what I mean, and actually just put people on game if nothing else, but also to even check dudes, because we do check each other. And I just want to make that clear. Like, we might not step to somebody like super aggressive, but gently a lot of times. Jerry's like the master of the gentle check, by the way.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is.
To speak to what Chuck's talking about, I think part of the reason more women don't come forward is, you answered kind of your own question, is that it becomes about proving it. Yep. It was easier for you to fire that gentleman for being late or being a bad writer or just being other way, maybe insubordinate, but to go to him and say, you know what, you were inappropriate with your female coworker, and that's why we're terminating you, becomes harder to prove and then make it actionable. So that's just one example of why I think a lot of women, particularly in our industry, don't come forward, because repercussions are so hard to come by for the people who are guilty.
And not only that,
Mm-hmm.
but in my instances, for women, a lot of times if you're in very heavy duty men's spaces, like at the stores where, Double XL or King, even, if you're at these heavy duty male spaces, you better shut the F up and be happy you're there. Like, I've never been in a space where there were a whole bunch of women there. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times you get to a certain space, you have a certain position, you're getting certain stories, you just got to play the back. So the idea of calling any attention to yourself outside of your work is just absolutely frightening. So you just try to find ways to manage it. You try to find ways around it to manage it. You get a buddy. So I want to say one more thing about that situation. Sometimes if my friend wasn't available, there was a dude that I was cool with also in my area that I would get. And he would say, okay, here I come. And he would walk me over and stand around and do and be like, yo, Leah, let's go. We got to go to lunch and da-da-da. So here we are 20 years later. I'm reminding him of that story. And he's like, and I'm like, that was always dope that you would always make sure you could, move over there and make sure nothing happened. And he was like, yo, that's horrible. Why the fuck didn't I just go tell somebody or step to this dude and be like, yo, what's the problem? He was like, I thought I was helping you by just making sure you were safe, but that was so surface. I don't understand why I didn't just punch that dude in the face. And I'm like, that's the world we lived in. That was enough.
But at the same time, let's just realize hip hop is really young. Yep. It's just really young, and the evolution of this culture and us in it is just something that we're all grappling with, because I hear these stories and I can relate it to any industry, really. Yes. And so there's really no difference. The difference is that we are now having language to identify certain behaviors that are unacceptable. There are enough women in certain positions that can create certain kind of boundaries where we don't have to relate. I can appreciate Chuck and Jerry and Day for having these conversations, but it's a conscious effort on everybody's part, as women, to create certain boundaries. There've been plenty of times when, when I was younger, like I said, I used to have to do these interviews and people would be smoking spliffs. And when I'm talking about smoking spliffs, I'm not just talking about one blunt. I'm talking about like 6 blunts making the, round. And I'd be there with my white cameraman who'd be like, I'm sorry, I can't go in there. And there have been interviews where you just, if the person's not on time, if the person is drunk, there have been plenty of times where we've had scheduled guests live on the air where we've had to go to commercial break and pull them out.
I do feel like this whole question, why media isn't handling this topic more and isn't more calling people out who are like sexist or racist, especially in a small market like Germany. It has something to do with dependent. So like the music media are 100% dependent on the rappers. So like some of the most important rappers here in Germany are horribly sexist. Like they are those guys who are rapping about punching their women and they're doing it in real life. So, and everybody knows it. And still the hip hop media are writing about them because they are depending on them, because those are the ones who bring the clicks and the money. So this is why they are not muting them, because they are the ones who are paying the bills of like the online magazines and stuff.
Right.
And the point is why women aren't speaking up more up is because if they do, they get a shitstorm by their fans. I mean, I've been there. Like the point where I started 365 female MCs was when I had an argument with a German rapper called Flair, who is also one that's saying blah, blah, blah. There are no women in hip hop, and if a woman is rapping, then she should rap about sex because blah, this, and who has a very particular women, like a very particular opinion of what women are allowed to do and what they aren't allowed to do and how to deal with them. And when I spoke up against them, it was on a panel and it got filmed and it got on YouTube, and I had a horrible shitstorm for weeks. And it was a nice shitstorm. It wasn't superficial. It wasn't about my body and stuff. It was just about what I said and that I had no right to say it. But I know a lot of women, like especially in the 2000s, we had one female hip hop journalist who did video interviews. And I also did video interviews, but I wasn't as successful as she was. And there was no interview of this women where there weren't like thousands comments of like, yeah, her boobs are like this, and she probably slept with the rapper after the interview and stuff. So you get so much bullshit when you go public. And you get even more bullshit when you speak up against sexism or racism or whatever. Because you're going to be a target. And being in this small hip-hop community where everyone knows each other, you don't want to make enemies. You don't want this rapper to come to your office and being stressful. And this is what happens. And this is why no one is speaking up, because everybody knows each other, everybody is buddy, everybody needs to be friends with each other. And so no one is criticizing. And that's a really, really big problem. And for me, I try to solve this problem because like my way to solve it was I just try to put a spotlight on the female rapper. I didn't criticize the fact that there's sexism in the industry, but I just said, here's the spotlight on female talent, so you can't ignore it. And on the other hand side, I get a lot of interview requests. So people want to talk to me about, women in hip hop, blah, blah. If anyone wants to make something about it, they call me and say, hey, Lina, tell us something about women in hip hop, blah, blah. And every time I do an interview about it, I tell the people there is a huge problem with sexism in hip hop, yes, but this isn't a hip hop problem. It's actually what Veronica said. it is a problem of our society. And yes, hip hop is a mirror of the society. So of course there is sexism, and we have to do a lot of work in the society. And yeah, there are some things changing, small things, but it's a long, long way to go. A long, long way to go. But I am trying to change something in hip hop because this is my home and this is the place I can clean up, you know? So that's why I'm trying to change something here, but still it's something small, and still this is the reality of all women in hip hop. I don't know any woman, be it rapper, journalist, music industry professional, whatever, who hasn't experienced bullshit in this industry, and it sucks.
And I'm sorry to say, we also have to call out our own selves, because there were times at different magazines where editors, male and female, would send out a woman to do a particular interview because you feel like you might get a better reception. Is that sexist? Is that problematic? Kinda, yeah. I never thought of it as such. It's like, yo, Aliya, you're gonna go interview so-and-so. And I know what it is. I'm like, oh yeah, I can imagine this dude does not want to sit up in the studio for 3-4 hours with another dude. He wants to look at a woman. It's that, and I did not think there was anything wrong with that 20 years ago. It's a little creepy now.
And it's also creepy. I don't know what it's like for the other women in this panel, but for me, when I started being a music journalist, I was the only female on the team as well. And when the second woman got hired for this blog or for this online magazine, I got pissed because I was like, okay. So I had the same stereotypes in mind about other women in hip hop. I was also like, okay, yeah, she probably has no idea. She probably started rapping because of her boyfriend. She probably blah, blah. So I had the same stereotypes when I was like 18, 19 years old about other women. I treated them the same way that I was treated, yes. And it took me years to check that I was part of the problem all the time. And so this is also changing. I feel like women were taught that there can only be one for decades. So it was always okay that there can only be one queen of hip hop. There can only be one female music journalist and stuff. And now people realize that it's way better to form troops, to work together, to push each other, and that's what's happening right now, and that's really amazing.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree 100%. I've heard, like you were saying, Mona Lina, I've heard so many stories from so many of so many of my female peers in this industry that's just, all of them make me incredibly sad. And the thing that a lot of people, like, especially people who are so critical of women in the field, don't seem to realize is that, like, hip hop was made to address and comfort marginalized people at the end of the day. And like everyone on this panel is someone who is some sort of marginalized person, right? And like, as amazing and like as amazing as it is to see all of the women on this panel doing the work that they need to do, like Jerry and Chuck and Datwon were saying, like, it's really on us as men to be doing the heavy lifting to make these spaces safe for the women in the industry, for all the queer homies in the industry, for all the gay people, lesbian people, the MBs, the trans people, everyone. Like these are all people who love and appreciate hip hop the way all of us do. And any one person who doesn't feel safe, it means that it's not safe for anybody. So we all need to do our part to make sure that not only people feel safe, but that people's music is being exposed and appreciated for what it is. And like, it's really on us as men to make the environment safe for everybody to do this and to call out other people that we see. I'm fortunate in the way that I haven't really seen anything terrible like this happen yet. Like we've all heard the stories, and like I have a lot of like secondhand like knowledge of it, but I haven't been in a position where I've had to like check somebody in person. And I like to think that I'm not afraid to do that when it needs to happen. So I don't like, it's really just about men taking a step back and amplifying women, amplifying queer people, amplifying every other marginalized person who needs that support. Like that's all I have to say. I just want everyone to be able to speak for themselves, and for us to just do the work necessary to be able to let everyone speak for themselves.
Yeah,
That's
to that point, that's really just been my goal. I know I can't fix every problem, but I know throughout my career, when I've been in a position to hire or get work, I always make sure I get a woman some work, particularly a Black woman some work, you know, whether it's as a staff person. You remember we at Watch Loud, like I was like, we got too much testosterone on this staff. We need some women. You know, the writing, that trying to maintain that balance as much as possible. From my days at the Source, my first intern was a woman. But then to Aliya's point, I never thought of it that way, because I would assign women to certain species because I felt like they would get more information, or the artist would be more comfortable with a woman. I am guilty of that, but I never thought of it as you gave me something to think about, like, well, why was I sending her? Not particularly because she was quote unquote attractive or not, but I just felt like the artist would be more comfortable, you know, with a woman in that instance.
I mean, and there's business moves, you know, there's just business moves regarding that, you know, that certain things, yes, we have more tact, we have more panache to get certain stories. You know, it's not just because, you know, it's a woman, but it's because of our style and because of the energy that we bring to the table. But it's not only that. I want to speak to something else, like when these things do come up, having these kinds of conversations and being able to address them. And it just brings me back to when all that stuff happened with Mr. C. And everybody was having all these side conversations, but there was one person who was able to really sit him down and have a very public, very transparent conversation about a lot of stuff that people, you know, you always hear about these DL rappers and these, okay, but now let's just have a conversation. Like, let's call a spade, and let's use our channels to actually have proper conversations. As people of color, we don't do that enough. You know what I'm saying? And so that's why I said we really have to give ourselves, you know, just some time, because hip hop is young. So we're going through the stages of adolescence, basically. You know, and there's a lot of hormones and a lot of stuff that happens during that time. So we got to give it the room, you know, to actually evolve on its own and be the protectors of that.
And also, I just want to say this really quickly, because now you guys got me thinking. I got to keep remembering that this is live. Part of it is that, just like, I feel like women hip hop journalists weren't really allowed to be sexual beings at all. We weren't supposed to be cute. We weren't supposed to be sexy. We were supposed to be Timbs and overalls. Damn sure you could not, you know, I was dating a fellow hip hop journalist and I was frightened to death that someone would find out that I was dating another writer, because God forbid somebody think that I got any kind of story, any kind of opportunity, any kind of anything because I was dating this dude. Did he walk around with that same fear? Of course not. But there was this idea. I was always taught and felt like I could barely be an actual woman. Like, a lot of times, going back to what you said about why women wouldn't speak up, Chuck, God forbid, what if a woman had a relationship with a rap artist? You think she's going to then turn around and say, this person assaulted me? No, because everybody's going to say, oh, but that's the girl who has sex with Jay. That's the girl who da-da-da-da-da. We were never allowed. I did a Clubhouse with Kim Osorio, who we all know about.
It's a sneaky heritage.
Yes. And she said, yo, I never understood why we couldn't just be regular ass women who do regular ass women shit. No, we could not. Because we were always afraid that we would be judged, that we would get this reputation. It was like high school. Yeah. If I could go back in time, anyway. So a lot of what we felt about why we didn't speak up was because we felt we were supposed to hold on to these super, super, super ideals of what we were supposed to be that we didn't always live up to. God forbid. So that was part of the reason why we didn't speak up, is because some of us were being human and we felt like we would be judged for that.
Okay.
The double standard is
The
real.
problem-
I, as a male journalist, slept with a female rapper, be like, oh, go Jay. But
Right.
if you slept with a male rapper,
Right.
it's like, oh my God, that double
Right.
standard was super real. But sorry, MastaFive, you wanted to say something?
They only say that the real problem that the industry create right now approaches to make money on the herd effect. You know, right now, if I make a good song with very good words in there, or make a bullshit song, every time someone listen the first song or the second song, the industry take money, and also don't have the mission to make something good for the people, something good for the younger. Is only that make money on the views, on the listens, and this is the real problem. Because if there's something go wrong in the messenger in some song, but not is not a moral dialogue that I want to do, is that, you know, right now the trapper, the driller say that we don't do hip hop, we don't do rap, and take the excuse to say whatever he wants is the freedom to do, but create something that, okay, if the hip hop culture say that this what I say is too much immoral, too much matches, I don't know, okay, we say that we do something different, and the industry take money, make money from the make numbers. So if right now I go to say something stupid for 1 hour, when we make something like I don't know what 1 million of views of something stupid, the industry make money on there. This is the real problem. Is in the basement of how may make money the industry, and whatever we can talk about that. We need equal everything about that, but for real, we need some material on the web. We make the people make the choice. So there is this, okay, we make that, and the only mission that to put a lot of things that is what we think we propose like hip hop culture. The very problem is that we're talking about something, and there is less materials on journalism, discography, or whatever. It's like a war with David versus Goliath, you know, whatever. Because every time the industry make money on stopping things, is the same thing when we say stop to make stupid people famous, because the stupid people make money for the industry. This is the real problem. Make money on the stupidity of the people. I hope that I can explain as better I can. Excuse me for this bad English.
Real talk.
Not at all.
No, this definitely has to have, part two for this, this is too fire.
There's so much we wanted to talk about. We had like 10 questions ready. We got like 2.
It's crazy. So Jerry, I mean, like we only have like what, 15 minutes left, Jerry?
Yeah, I there's a lot we wanted to touch on, but I didn't want to leave without addressing our role as media when there's so much competition and dealing and using the unfortunate passing of DMX as a launching pad for that, because we've been seeing how it's been covered by certain newspapers here in the States. Sure. So in your country, where you are right now, How has that news been reported, and where do you feel your responsibility as part of hip hop media to steer that conversation? Because the Daily News had a cover with DMX and Prince Philip, and basically uplifted Prince Philip as this, icon, and DMX was this troubled rapper, and just the juxtaposition of those two was just so problematic to me. What are your thoughts on how it's been covered, and how social media played a part also, and how his death was falsely reported, and how everyone now is a source, and it caused all kinds of havoc on Friday night with different people claiming different sides of the story? I know that's a lot to talk about, but feel free to just jump in.
Man, it's a show right now with the media. DMX has died from everything from an overdose to COVID to a heart attack, and no one is even trying to get to the truth. It's pathetic. It's sad. Now Jay-Z just paid for his whole catalog, and they're giving it to the children. It's crazy. And I had to tweet the other day that, before DMX died, people are rushing to Twitter to break the news, and they haven't confirmed it with anyone of any note, much less a media outlet. So it's crazy right now. And I just don't know, obviously media is going to do what they have to do, but it seems like everyone is jumping in to try to be that source or that outlet. And they have literally no responsibility whatsoever other than to delete or to apologize.
Well, and that goes to the training and the accreditation, right? So one of the biggest things that I was taught at the Newhouse School was double sourcing. And I can't do a damn thing without a double source. Right. I can't write it better be allegedly before anything gets out, because it's that's the FCC on the line, and a lot of people with the onset of the digital era of news gathering and the internet, these are not journalists that you're looking at. These are not people who so and when you do look at things like the Daily News, for example, find out who the editor is. Find out if there's any Black gatekeepers. No, you know why? Because that was one of my frat brothers that they fired about 5 years ago. He was the first Black Metro's editor of the Daily News, and there hasn't been one since. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm saying that to say, like, for us to be where we are is great that there are some of us that are remaining independent, but there are some of us that have to be inside, because that kind of shit will happen all the time because they don't think about it. And by they, I just mean the power, the gatekeepers. They don't think about any of that stuff, And so, Jerry, I'm a Delta. I mean, that's the only sorority to be in. So just don't make that clear. So it's real when you don't have double sourcing. You have TMZ paying people to go through people's garbage to get information and piece together a story. And yes, a lot of times they do get the scoop, but it takes us down a dark road, to then be able to say. And I was, I have to out myself, because Friday night I heard the news. I got the email from my company that it was confirmed. And so I put something out on Twitter. Now, my assignment desk person did not double source. So my post was up for about 5 minutes. And then I saw Lisa Evers's post. Now I will trust Lisa. I don't care where I work. I will trust her with this kind of stuff. So when I saw Lisa say that it wasn't confirmed, I took the post down. Because there was a lot of just you know, false advertising with his manager coming out on Tuesday. So it was a lot of mess, you know, and it's up to us to have some journalistic integrity. But a lot of people don't know what that is. A lot of people don't understand what the double sourcing is. A lot of people don't know that relevance and priority take precedent. You know what I'm saying? Prince Philip ain't even from this fucking country. Why was he on the front cover of a local paper?
Right. It's crazy. It's crazy.
You're right.
And on the other paper, he was DMX wasn't on at all. The Post. It was just
the Post is awful because they had a real estate writer write about DMX's homes that he lost. They were so eager to just get in on the trending topic. They had they're going chasing SEO on the algorithm that they had their real estate journalists come up with some weird angle that was totally disrespectful.
No, but the Post is a rag.
On Twitter over that.
The Post is a rag. Like, be clear about what the role of the Post is. The role of the Post is to do exactly what it did. The Post is not here to give you news. Be very clear about that. And the Daily News is very close to that. Like, I'll look at that after I look at the Washington Post, the LA Times, and the New York Times. And I don't even look at the New York Times first. I look at the Washington Post first. You know, so you got to be really careful because these people have agendas. You know what I'm saying? The Post has always had an agenda. So it really is clear. And what I love is to see the Post. And, you know, my nephew sent me something from Miami because there was a reporter that did something similar in Miami. And all of these people are getting dragged because now we're holding people accountable. You know, and it's important when you do see that stuff on the Daily News, it's important to be like, okay, so who's in charge here? Was there a Black person there? Did this go through the proper channels? Because I can tell you that it didn't.
So, Roslynn, haven't heard from you in a little bit. How has social media made your job harder or easier in media?
Well, I mean, first I want to commend you on that last question. There's so much I could have said, but you know, we're gonna save that for another day. But you know, I think for us, because we're a TV network, we're not necessarily, you know, the hard-hitting journalistic news. I treat every death like you would give a eulogy at a funeral, right? For example, my dad's funeral, none of us could say a good thing about it, right? But not to say that's the case with DMX, but we posted, you know, when we saw him perform in 2017, and it was amazing. We posted a video of that festival and said, this is how he'll be remembered. You know, I think it's not for us to judge a person's life character on their last day. So I think we always post the best of the person, you know, for that to be the last memory as us being a media platform to millions around the world. You know, and that's what we want shared across social media, is that, you know, him doing his best at that time. So that's a little bit of a different take that we have because of that. But it also happened to us as well. You know, I remember at MySpace when DJ AM died, and I got a lot of calls because his family wasn't sure what we should do with the MySpace page, because a lot of people were posting comments and wasn't sure if it was happening or not. And we had to make the call and say, I mean, that was the only social network at that time, right? Wow. So we had to post something official from that account, you know. And nowadays, the way that we have, like you said, you know, Veronica, you look at those profiles, or you look at, you know, whatever it is that real verified source, and then to see if it's real, as Steve Rifkin saying, is, you know, who's saying this, and then that is that social media verification. And that's just the world we live in, is how we get our news source, and it has to come from the actual family, or, you know, the official accounts now.
So we're getting close to the end, so I want to leave with one last question. After this discussion, what's at least one action item that you commit to moving forward as it relates to your industry and hip hop?
I commit to hollering at Aliya on this book stuff.
Dang.
Jack has a book to be written.
No, in all seriousness, that's something I've been kicking around for quite a while. And I think that it's important that we tell our own stories, tell these stories. And I don't mean just rappers either. I think that Datwon has a story. I definitely have a story. My company has a story. And that's how I think we expand the horizons of hip hop. Everything can't be what's in the headlines and what's in the media and what's sort of getting the clicks and views. Some of it has to be media content, letting kids know that you don't have to be a gun-toting, blunt-smoking rapper to make it out here. And all of us on this panel are living proof that there are.
We lost him for a sec.
We lost each other.
We lost Chuck.
So, and
there you go.
furthermore, pardon?
We lost you for a second.
Oh man, I was sitting here talking. Yeah, no. But what I was saying is there's so many different chambers to hip hop, so many different facets and stories, and quite frankly, there are stories not just Big and Pac, not just 50 Cent, not just the rappers that got shot, but there's the other stories as well. And I think we have to continue to tell those stories in all platforms, all mediums.
Yeah, that's for sure. I think one of the ways that I'm committing to it is as I'm editor-in-chief of Vibe, I'm also a VP over at Dick Clark Productions. So I get to work on the Billboard Music Awards, the American Music Awards, a bunch of those different properties that they own. And I try to infuse what we on this panel live through and are inspired by through hip hop. I try to infuse that into those shows. Regardless of how new I am, I'm always throwing out, hey, why don't we use such and such? Why don't we try this person? I think this would work because of, and in those spaces, we still have to prove ourselves, even though hip hop and our culture is the top culture that's out there right now, that's inspiring people within other music genres. So that's my commitment. I'm still, pushing into those other spaces and trying to expand our growth.
I'm committing to, within the next month, to having Datwon, Chuck, and Barry on the morning show to talk about something. Yeah, I don't know what, but we're gonna figure it out. And then I'm committing to, down the line, eventually featuring Dylan and Yacko and calling upon everybody and MastaFive, calling upon everybody, because the beauty of, I know the pandemic was horrible, but I am focusing on the blessings of the pandemic. And the blessing has been that now, because we're doing all these interviews via Zoom, I get to include people from everywhere. And so I just, Mona Lisa as well. Like I'm thinking, as you know, music producers and TV producers are really no different. So I already have like 10 different stories going on in my head right now. Yeah. And all of them involve all of you, because you deserve to be in front of the camera.
Thank you.
Thank you. Who we got here from Dylan? Putting you on the spot.
I appreciate that, first of all, Veronica. Thank you. Yeah, like I think all of our stories are just so important. And this is, like we've all been saying, like we're on top right now. And I think what I'm gonna be committing to most is just kind of focusing on the whole unity aspect, because I know when I grew up, like when I was in high school, I was really, really stuffy about the type of music I listened to. And I look back on those years like, damn, like, why wasn't I more open-minded? And like, it's weird because I just turned 29. I'm about to turn 30 next year. And I feel more entrenched in what our culture is at this point in my life than I did 10 years ago. I don't know very many people who can say the same. And I think like, it's like I said at the very beginning, there's really treasure everywhere, man. Like there's all sorts of amazing music happening in every corner of rap right now. Like New York is going through a whole renaissance right now. Like Detroit and Flint and Michigan are going through a whole renaissance right now. Cali is going through it. Texas is going through it. Like music of all different stripes. Like, you know, like there's like the Pop Smokes up here and the Navy Blues down here. There's the Little Simses up here, the Megans over here, the Tierra Wax over here. Like there's like I talk to so many people who say that like, oh, like we've all had the hip hop is dead conversation before, but it's not. Like it's more varied than it's ever been, literally ever been. It's like we can't keep track of how much new music there is anymore. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things we could ask for. There's so many different definitions of what rap music is. And the more of that we're willing to, if not embrace, then at least like attempt to understand, because you don't have to like everything. But yeah, just like from here and all across the globe, like just like everything happening in Indonesia, everything happening in like France and Germany. Like France is one of the biggest markets for rap in the world too. Yeah. Like it's like that's really humbling to think that it all started at, you know, like it all started in the Bronx and now it's everywhere. Like murals of rappers in countries that most people have never heard of before. Like that's, I love that. And I just want people who understand and appreciate it to be able to push it the way that it deserves to be pushed. So that's, but like we can all do it together because there's so many great aspects to every side of this culture. And the more of that we're willing to work on together, the further we're gonna go. So that's it.
Like Aliya say, we must be the gatekeepers.
Exactly. We had a question from someone watching Sharp Newman. They said that Mona Lee said she listened to Master Ace, and how can our industry keep uplifting veteran artists in this youth culture? And to that point, I'm my podcast, Father to Father. I've been blessed enough to have some of my favorites and my greats like Drez from Black Sheep and Master Ace and Craig G, and keeping them, you know, in the media, and I interviewed Pharoah Monch for the 20th anniversary of his debut album in DC. That's on us, because no one's going to care more about them than me. So I can't let them fall to the wayside. And I keep reminding people they're still putting out music. You know, Craig G just put out an album this year. Master Ace put out an album two years ago. So we can't just keep thinking, oh, they were dope in the 90s. They were dope in the 80s. They're still dope now. So it's really on us to keep their names out there. And that's my commitment to keep doing that.
Oh yeah, nah, like absolutely. I tweeted about this yesterday actually, because I was thinking about it with X. Like the concept of an old rapper is something that's like so new, because unfortunately so many people just don't make it to a certain age. So like Veronica's brought it up a few times about like how we're still in our infancy. We haven't even, like, there's only like a handful of like legends who have made it past the age of 50 years old. You know, like DMX made it to 50 and died. So I'm all about like uplifting all of our legends who laid the groundwork and showing appreciation for them. Like we couldn't, like that's our duty since we're here. Like we gotta.
True. So true.
I see Renee's showing up.
Yeah, just want to add like a couple of things. Like I do have I hosted a podcast in YouTube. It's called Hip Hop Hooray. It's all in Indonesian language, but we do have like 4 segments. What we do is that we have What's Poppin', and then it talks about, we actually interview the the hip hop artists in Indonesia from the 90s, from the 2000 eras. So we just want our audience to know that they're still here, you know, they're still making music. And then we also have Under the Radar for those young generations of hip hop in Indonesia, to be put in the spotlight. And then another thing, we do have a rap commendation. It actually shows 8 tracks, Indonesian hip hop tracks. And one of them is usually we insert 1 throwback songs so that the young generation still know the songs that originates before them, and they know the history and the culture. So That's something that I am committed to do still, to keep on going, you know, and yeah, to connect with you guys. Perhaps we can have you in our podcast as well in the future. That'd be great.
I'm committed to DMing all of you to make sure you got your passports and ready to travel in 2022.
Yeah.
Renee, we're going to Brazil.
Yeah, you already know.
Hell yeah.
Confidence 2022, and so that's what it is.
This will be in person.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's go, yo.
I'm gonna send you some really dope Filipino rappers that are here in the States or across the world, but I want to invite you to the Philippines. Imagine Hawaii or Jamaica times 7,000 islands, you know? But in all seriousness, you know, I miss the days of Mixed Show Power Summit, or, you know, Chuck, you have the All Hip Hop Summit. Like, we need to do this in person. I think all of you guys reminded me why I fell in love with hip hop in the first place, you know? So I am definitely gonna commit to what you said. You know, there's a lot of times, you know, I think there was a moment where Rasta Roots sent us all shirts about celebrating Fife. You know, there's, you know, when the Far Side releases a song, like you said, you can create a listicle. You know, I just want to be reminded as well of that, of like to always show homage, you know. And I you know, all of you guys, I'm big fans of your work, and it's been an honor, but I can't wait to follow where this conversation has taken us globally. And, you know, my network is here for you, but, you know, I want to hear more of these stories, because these are the real behind the scenes, like no publicists, like real stories that you guys got. So thank you to the GEC Summit, and Renee and Natalie and all of you guys for putting this together and bringing us all in one room until we're sitting in a beach in Brazil, right, Renee?
Let's go.
Got it.
Yeah.
100%,
Let's do it.
100%. Hey, I know we actually extended this because the conversation has just been so enlightening and rich, and like, you know, for real, like we're committed to doing a part 2, seriously. Because I like Jerry, I could simply, like, we got into maybe like 3 of the questions, and like, and there's so many really dope questions to come out of it. Like, we could be talking for 4 hours. But first of all, say thank you to everybody here for, you know, taking the time out on a Saturday. You know, some of you are parents. You know, everyone here has like just really, you know, busy lifestyles and really committed to their craft. So I want to give props to everybody here with that too. You know, like I'll just get a quick thing, like with Veronica last week. She was like, "Oh, I thought the panel was last week," and she tipped me up like, "I just got to make sure this X situation's all right, because I got to check these people going back to accountability on TV." Like, you know, she sending me bios and stuff for that flying from Egypt and all. You know, like, I'm just saying, like, everyone's real busy, and I would say thank you for taking the time. And all of you here are gatekeepers, like, for real. Like, everybody here is a gatekeeper for this culture. And, you know, let's continue to hold it down, continue to keep that accountability, continue to be creative, continue to like push the envelope, and, you know, also uplifting others and looking at other generations, you know, like the other people in our generations that's coming up, and like, so be passing that torch around. So that's very important. You know, it's on behalf of the, you know, Global Power Culture Summit, we just want to say thank you. Please make sure to follow us on Instagram at GECS Summit. That's GECS UMMIT. It's on Instagram. Also, we'll be posting more information on all of the panelists. So, you know, we have more information on all the panelists that are involved here, because everyone's really doing some dynamic stuff. So make sure that also please follow them. Like when you see on our posts, like, please follow everybody, because we tag everybody who's been a part of this. And special thanks to our production crew here. We put a lot of work into this, from Apollonia, Natalie, Raquel, once again, happy birthday, Kendra, all the organizations involved, from Generation Hip Hop Loves, Culture Fix, Hip Hop Movimento, Larma Entertainment. It's been blessings, you know, just, you know, everyone just putting this together. And yes, we are going to do this in person in Rio. So, you know, have a caipirinha and some cerveja and a little churrasco, which is a barbecue, and you know, Portuguese. We'll get it popping next year. And Jerry, Yacko, thank you for being like amazing co-hosts, you know, co-moderators with this. You guys did a great job. Chuck, good looking out on part 2 with the name called It Takes a Million. That's going to be the title of the part 2. Good looking out on that one. That will be part 2, you know. And, you know, for real, one thing we want to do right now, you know, like I said earlier, you know, we gave a little moment to sign up for X. I said, let's all do this right here. Take a screenshot of this real quick, and, you know, let it be known for everybody. Yeah, you know, this is what, much respect to DMX. Love you. You know, let's continue to move and push the envelope forward with it.
Yeah,
and,
definitely.
after this, you know, we're about to end this right now, but we do have a session in Spanish happening. So if you want to stay tuned and stay in, you know, on our Facebook Live, that'll be starting up in about 20 minutes. And once again, we do this every second Saturday of the month. And, you know, we just love just having these type of dope conversations, man. And I think I kind of want to commit to doing an uncut version of this, because everyone was like, when Aliya was like, oh, we live? I was like, we need to do like
I definitely edited myself.
Yeah. I swear, you can have like, we going to do, it's going to be like the hip hop media only fans about the real dirt will have glow. Now we can say the real names. Like,
Definitely edited myself. I was like, damn. But nah, it was all good though. It was a great, healthy conversation, man. Thank you, Renee, for having us on.
Yeah,
you know, all the work
appreciate
that you
man.
do.
No, I love y'all, man. And so much love. Till next time, we'll announce when we're gonna do part 2, but we're gonna do it for real. And let's do it. Global Empowerment Culture Summit. Much love to everybody. Peace and love, y'all.
Bless up, everyone.